All right, are we ready?
We are now live online. Matt is here, so we have full commissioner attendance. Jennifer, the floor is yours.
All right, the September 2021 meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the South Whidbey Parks and Rec District is called to order, and we have a quorum present. Doug, do we have anyone for public comment this evening?
I have not received any emails. I do not see anyone in the queue that is dialed in, so we should be good. No emails or letters. I do not have any public comment at this point.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the August meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye. Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those not in favor say nay. Okay, the motion passes. All right, we'll move on to the treasurer's report, please, Matt.
Okay. All right, so you see the overview slide showing the cumulative revenue on the top and expenses on the bottom. The bars are budget versus actual, and remember, favorable is up, or the upward direction in all cases. So you can see we're slightly favorable on the revenue side, and we're more favorable on the program side. On the expense side. And then the net, you see our budget line in net and our favorable actual line. You can see, if you can tell from this small view, that our favorability diminished a little bit month over month. We dropped to 106K favorable. That's net year to date as of August. So it's still favorable, but less so than we were last month. Next slide. You can see about half of that loss in favorability came from revenue. So we were at peak, we were 30,000 ahead of budget. You can see we dropped to 25, and now we dropped to 5,000 ahead, just based on levy funding and also programs funding. There's a number of things you probably hear in the programs report, but a number of programs either got canceled or we got people seeking refunds for a variety of reasons, COVID, whatever. So, and the triathlon revenue was significantly lower than expected, as we all heard about over a couple of meetings. So that drop in programs revenue cumulative to budget was expected and is traced to those things correctly. So, but we still remain net 5K favorable. And if you go to expenses, you'll see we dropped the other half of that drop in favorability was in expenses. Net still 101,000 favorable on the expense side. Next slide. And you can see fund balances remain on plan and have been there since the beginning of the year. So we're in good shape from a fund balance standpoint. Any questions before we go to the vouchers?
Matt, do you do any projections? How do you feel that we're going to end up the final quarter?
Yeah, normally we are projecting month to month relative to plan, and our expectation in a normal year is we'd end up, in that 180 to 200K favorable. I think the downside risk is in program revenue associated with, the kind of return to COVID, more stringent COVID protocols for the fourth quarter and resultant, weakening in program attendance and potential cancellation of some programs, either from providers or on our part. So I think that there's downside risk in the balance of the year, but I think there is not risk to the to our overall achievement of the budget at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the voucher list approval, please.
Okay, vouchers. We just had a few things added. So we'll go all the way up to the top just to make sure we don't miss anything. All right, so this is Carrie's first run at doing vouchers. She did a damn fine job. You'll see here that I've highlighted a few items that have changed. We've added Sky Dunn to the payroll. So that was done this past week. So he will be getting paid at the end of the month. And we've got some irrigation parts that we ordered for about $1,700. Came in. Some postage with Amazon, our go-to meeting annual fee, credit card fees, bank fees, and $89.12 for Point and Pay, which is our credit card processing company. And that's it. Those are the new charges since the vouchers went out on Friday or Monday. I don't remember when they exactly went out. Any questions on the vouchers?
All right, if there are no
Okay,
questions, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, if there are no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the voucher listing for the M&O fund and a total amount of $89,474.78.
I'll second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the total M&O fund for September for $89,474.78. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye. Josh, aye.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. We'll move on to the staff report.
Before we move on, just a quick reminder to everybody, Carrie did send out, I believe, the email asking for the email approval at the end, so please send that back in at the end of the meeting so we can get these vouchers sent through and paid out. Staff report, all right, there's that, and then move it down, nope, and move it down here, and move this over here. Okay. So, we have had some cancellations. We've had some refunds. You can see our pro baseball camp was canceled, Overline was canceled, beginning bird watching, no registration. We've had some stuff that's been full a lot. The revenue loss a lot. Matt nailed it with the losses on. We had a bunch of programs where people asked for refunds this past month, so that hit us pretty hard on the revenue side. And we had the triathlon coming in well under revenue projections, but we knew about that. So coming up, outdoor pickleball is continuing to go. It is continuing to grow, actually, which is nice. We've got pickleball doubles ladder coming up on the 11th, yoga in the park, Zumba in the park. So we are continuing to do things. One of the big issues that we have right now is finding out if, when, what's going on with gyms. I have a contact call out to Paul Lagerstadt at the high school to talk to him about gym usage and when can we get in, when can we start planning for basketball this winter. Can we, or are they just going to lock it down on their end and not allow anybody to use anything? So trying to set up a meeting with Paul. I have an email into him. I will be giving him a call again tomorrow to just follow up on that, to be able to sit down with him and Sky and potentially even Carrie in that meeting to kind of talk about what we need. Whidbey Island Fair shifted their date so that it's the same weekend as we've had the triathlon historically. This happens, what, Carrie, probably every 2 years, 3 years, 1 year. It varies year to year, but usually the Whidbey Island Fair decides they're going to move their date, and it's based on when they can get the carnival rides. And that ends up impacting when we have the triathlon. We can't really have the triathlon going down that street on the Saturday morning when the fair is in session. So the only timing company we've ever used is only available on the 4th of July or late in August. We really don't want to do the 4th of July, and we really don't want to do late in August. We're looking at bids from other timing companies. We'll be sitting down with the triathlon committee to kind of look at this. I believe it's next week. Here's a couple of pictures of Earth Skills Camp going on in the room where we would normally be having our meeting. Facilities and grounds. We have the signs of fall are upon us. We're focusing on field repairs, completing our top dressing for this year. We've replaced the double check backflow preventer for baseball fields 1 and 4. Fall soccer is underway. Cross country is underway. They've had their first cross country meet. I believe they have another one on Saturday. That is their kind of invitational.
Yeah, the Westling.
Yeah,
the Westling Invitational.
So that will be this Saturday. So they will be using the trails. The nice thing is though, with the new route that we've created with adding the Falcon Way kind of trail on the around the campground, they do not cross both roads. So we can literally just close off one side, and we do have yoga in the park at the same time on the upper field as those guys are doing the cross country meet. So and routine maintenance is keeping us running and trying to keep up as usual. So that's what's going on with maintenance. I was off for probably a week and a bit this past month, so not a ton on my end. Archive Social, we've started to work on our archiving of our social media accounts. We are linking our media accounts to them, and with Sky coming on board last week, I've scheduled a training session for the week of actually it's for next week now, and have updated credit card and bank accounts with Sky and Carrie in their new roles. We'll get to Sky in a moment. I got 2 quotes on the survey of the easement, which are up for approval at this board meeting. Met with members of the Rotary Club of Whitby West Side regarding their proposal to place 2 little libraries in the park, and that's also in the agenda. And we prepared staff prepared the initial draft of the budget. I reviewed it for presentation to you as an information item at this meeting. Also had some meetings with other area agencies to gather data for the consultant for the compensation and benefits study, and just bits and pieces here and there on checking in on the septic design, checking in on the small water system management plan, and other things. Any questions? Before I go to any questions, let me back out of this and let me open up this. And Sky, are you there? Do you want to jump on and introduce yourself?
I'm here. Sky Don, I know I've met some of you before and interacted with you in some way. Some of you're brand new to me. Grew up in Anacortes. Family has been on Whidbey Island for generations. Have a bachelor's and master's in kinesiology. Worked for Skagit County Parks and Rec. Worked for Parks and Recs ever since I was probably 15 years old, in some way, shape, or form. And I'm just really excited to work with our community.
And additional notes, Sky, when I first got here, I believe was our seasonal basketball coordinator for the community.
Yes.
So he is a rehire. Let's put it that way.
Well, welcome, Sky. It sounds like you are definitely very qualified and going to be a great addition to our teams. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to welcome Sky as well. I've known Sky for a while, and when I heard your name was in the hopper, Sky, I couldn't be happier about it. I think you're gonna do a fabulous job. So hats off to you. Thanks for joining.
You bet.
Okay. With that, any questions on the staff report?
All right, our next order of business is unfinished business comprehensive plan programs.
Okay, let's make that small again. All right, so on this one, comprehensive plan programs. Not much on the campground this much. I have checked in on the small water system management plan, septic design system update. Tom and I are meeting with Quinn from Davido about coming, and he's going to be coming out to look at using that existing building as a potential bathroom, the existing septic system, what it can handle, how much of that flow, and what we could actually do with that. So we're looking at that. The big thing that we're waiting on is that small water system management plan, and we're going to need to do a water system design as well. That will probably be required, or not probably, that will be required by the state before we can proceed with any initial construction of anything there. That's that. Let me do the other two, Matt, and I'll jump back to aquatic facilities so we can finish with that. I have received 2 quotes on marking out the easement for access and getting it ready for the trail plans for the Maxwell Park Trails Park easement. I did speak with Allison Delwo, our grants manager with the Recreation Conservation Office, and we're trying to get this all wrapped up as soon as possible. I would like to get the easement marked and the trail kind of slotted out, and even potentially a permanent sign kind of put together to put on that, so that we can talk to the county about getting all that done. Minimally, I'm still working with Gordy Edberg on getting that sign, the temporary sign put in, and we'll go from there. Amphitheater, I am scheduled to present to both Rotary clubs in October. That will be focused on the amphitheater, but will also include information about other projects that we're working on. So I will be bringing up the swimming pool, the Maxwell Trails property, the pickleball courts, etc. So talking in general about what we've got and what we're doing, and hoping to get backing from the Rotary Club of Whidbey Westside, which is the club I'm a member of, financially, in addition to the $15,000 for the amphitheater that the Rotary Club of South Whidbey has already provided and plans to increase. Aquatic facility, I met with, we met, sorry, not I, we met with Chris Patano of Patano Architects, which is now EED. On the next steps, they've actually merged with a firm in San Francisco. In initial drawings and plans, programming document from the foundations process with BK, and their group is in its final stages. Matt, did you want to comment on that in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I forgot what's on the regular meeting agenda. I can talk then, or
you can talk now. I think you had your piece that you brought up in the regular.
yeah, okay.
So
oh, got it. Okay. Can you turn on screen sharing so I can just show this picture? That'll make it easier.
Sure. Hold on. Let me pull that up. And let's see what I need to do that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then I'm going to, wait, where did you all go? There we go.
Still here.
I'm going to go here.
Can't get rid of this.
Make presenter. Yes, there. Now you should be able to share your screen, Matt.
It says I can. Okay, share. Okay. So I'm going to show you this. Okay. Option A. Okay. And you guys are seeing this because I'm seeing it. So there are, as part of the exercise, the feasibility study, that this consultant has been going through, they've come down to a couple of different, most of the times when you see these kinds of studies, they come up with a couple different options. Usually it's 3 options. You know, one option that's 20 million, one that's 40 million, and one that's 60 million. And, you know, they got different features and different footprints and whatever. It looks like the feasibility recommendation is coming down around 2 layout options, and the difference is pretty simple. You can see here, this is option A. This is kind of what's been the primary layout all along in kind of this version of the program. 3 pools, this is what we've presented and shown to Senator Mazzal and Representative Gilday and Representative Paul, and this is what we've shown to other groups who we've talked to, like the Langley City Council and Port District and Island County Commissioners. So this has just kind of always been the option, but now there's an option B, and the option B essentially removes that therapy pool as a potential cost savings, construction cost savings measure. It may involve, if that is removed, then the people or the aquatic physical therapy work would happen in this wellness and teaching pool, which is, nominally for swim lessons and for aquatic exercise classes, that kind of thing, but would also then be extended to doing therapy. And there may be a footprint savings associated with maybe shrinking the facility by some, 750 square feet or something like that as a result of this option B, to make the construction cost lower. The trade-off, there's some trade-offs. Obviously, it eliminates that dedicated therapy component and potentially shrinks the revenue associated with the physical therapy reimbursements we're talking about in the financial for the facility. So the feasibility study is going to do the math on both of those, like what's the impact in the cost recovery if you don't have that dedicated pool. Anyway, and then I want to show a picture of what that thing looks like, since we talked about it in this thing. So this picture is the pool that's intended for that space in the option A layout. And so just to describe in more detail, what do you mean when you say a dedicated therapy pool? So you can see what this thing is. It's 12 feet wide by 20 feet long. This is at a hospital in Eastern Washington, Dayton, Washington, Columbia County Community Hospitals. It's a new facility they built in 2017 to add this. And since they've added it, they've run at full capacity, almost full capacity. Since then, even though their county only has 4,000 people in it, they're drawing people. I talked to their PT guy. They're drawing people from Oregon, from Walla Walla, from Lewiston, from a much bigger radius because of the features that are in this thing. And this is kind of the feature picture. So again, a dedicated pool. So it's got a treadmill, not as nice as Peggy's, Carrie's, but a treadmill underwater, so you can walk and do walking therapies, side by side, crossover feet. If you've ever done that kind of walking therapy, you do it on a treadmill underwater that's moving. There's a deep tank here that you can, on the left side, that you can use for things where you have to be completely weightless, like lumbar decompression therapies and things like that. And then there's a shallower treatment area, and then an even shallower. So it's designed to have 3 patients and 3 therapists in the pool at the same time at maximum capacity. And there's resistance jets in the front of it that are providing resistance that you walk against or you can swim against. And then those jets, you stick a hose accessory, and you can use those for deep tissue massage based on that resistance jet porting through like a hose. And the other unique feature that is from this thing is that for different height patients, you can change the water depth in seconds. They have a ballast tank, and they can drop the water by 6 inches, or they can raise the water by 6 inches. If you have short patients or tall patients, almost instantly. So anyway, that's when you talk about a dedicated therapy pool in this option A, that's what that means. And if you're talking about pushing the therapy into this pool, it obviously is a different environment. It's still possible for therapy in there. It's just the range of therapies you can do have to be adapted to the fact that you're just doing it in a pool that's 4.5 feet deep and about 7 or 8 degrees colder than this dedicated pool. So anyway, that's that. When you hear talk of this couple of options, and when we see this study that's going to be published talking about these two options, that's what that is all about. So before I relinquish control, any questions on that? Either one of those or any of the stuff I talked about there?
That really informative, Matt. I appreciate that. The question I had was, when I know there was a number of surveys that went out prior to a lot of this, and were any of those surveys questions about actual community members and participation rates, like dedicated to that kind of thing, to that kind of pool? I'm just curious if you got it.
Yeah, there was a profile in the survey that said, you know, out of the 35 things you can do in the pool, which ones are of interest to you? And, you know, there's a ranking that's included in the feasibility study that came from that. And the top ranked things were lap swimming things. So open swim, lap swim for fitness and wellness. And so, you know, that's where the sizing of the competition pool or community pool comes from. That's why there's 6 lanes in it. You know, when you see like at IAC, there's 4 lanes in that pool. There's 6 lanes because of the high number of surveys that said, you know, the most time I would spend in this facility would be using that pool for lap swimming. You know, the learn to swim was kind of in the next tier, and that's where the wellness and teaching pool comes from. And then therapy was in kind of the 3rd tier. And so that's where that's coming from. So in terms of rank order of things that people in the survey said that they wanted to use the facility for, it kind of goes 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me that there would certainly be a direct correlation in terms of usage and revenue between the physical therapy treatment center and the therapy pool, that having the therapy pool would certainly maximize the use of those 2 spaces, while losing the therapy pool could quite possibly diminish returns on the treatment center itself if they weren't available.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right about that. The other thing that we've been looking at with regard to this is other, you know, if you have this capacity for physical therapy, you can have 3 patients. Typically, the physical therapy treatment hours are 9 a.m. until either 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. People don't want to get PT outside of those hours typically. So when you talk, we've interviewed a number of PT providers locally and regionally, West Coast, and those are the core treatment hours. So if that's really true and you maximize your usage of those and the revenue from those, what else can you do with that pool outside of those hours, right? The facility is going to be open later and open earlier. And what they're using these for in general, and Eric, you may know this, but for aquatic fitness and training purposes, people doing, and even for things like learn to swim, but using that treadmill feature for aquatic fitness, swimming against a resistance jet for fitness, and doing other things in that tank as aquatic fitness activities. So that's where the programming between 3 p.m. and facility closing time at 7 or 8 is you rent that tank out to personal trainers and that kind of thing, or you run programs that are designed for aquatic fitness, and you stick 3 or 4 people in that pool doing that aquatic fitness thing, or a couple of personal trainers and their clients in that pool doing that, you know, between 5:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. and between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. So there's additional revenue that can come from that by programming it different ways, like aquatic fitness. Anyway, that's a new, and it got made famous because that pool that I showed you in the picture was used by the quarterback of the Cowboys. If you follow football and the Cowboys, Dak Prescott was rehabilitated from his injury that took him out last year in this exact pool, and he thinks it's the greatest thing ever. So anyway, it's become popular in the fitness realm, especially cross training for sports like soccer and football and baseball and golf, even using a pool like this for fitness and not just therapy.
Okay, any other questions for Matt?
Well done.
All right. Thank you so much.
I will relinquish control, Doug, or you can just take it back if you know how to do that.
If you want to stop sharing your screen.
I'm not. Give control. No. Can you take it back, Doug?
Let me see.
No. I want to do that.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, and I no longer have permission to take over the screen. Except I'm going to need a bag, Doug, when I show that application.
I'll get you there. I think you're last on the agenda, so we'll get back to that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Any other questions on comprehensive plan programs before we move on to winter trail work plans? Okay. So, minimize, go away. All right. So as we talked about, we've started to look at the access trail to Max Welton Trails Park, secured 2 quotes on the survey work to mark the easement and start towards getting a county approval of the access. This is also something we're going to need to close out the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. We're going to need a map that identifies this very closely so that we can get to them the appropriate information. Once marked, we're going to flag the route, start a plan, and get county permits as needed to construct the main access trail. 2 quotes that were included in the board packet came in as follows, and both include any kind of filing of this that would needed to be done, getting it filed with the county. TMI came in at $6,250 and Harmson came in at $6,200. They're really pretty much identical quotes. I mean, $50 and that kind of a thing is not a big difference. Staff recommends, I have no recommendation as to which contractor to proceed with, but I do recommend proceeding. Both have offices on the island. Harmson's has one in Oak Harbor, and TMI I think it's a sole proprietor. It's not part of a bigger company, and it's in Freeland. We have previously done business with TMI, and we have been satisfied with the results. I don't know much about Harmson. That was somebody that recommended to us by Jennifer Cox.
Yeah, so Harmson is operating under a new name. They actually bought Fakima Kingman, so well established. My only question for you, Doug, is what is the timing availability? What is, with our sense of urgency for closing out the grant, what is the availability?
I think that what the board could do is authorize me to go up to $662.50 with whichever contractor I can touch base with that can tell me they can get it done in the shortest timeline. Does that make sense?
It does, yes, thank you. Right, any questions for Doug on that?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And if everybody's okay with it, I'll initiate a motion. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve Doug up to the amount of $6,250 to execute the survey work on the trails property.
I'll second that.
All right, it has been motioned and seconded that we approve Doug authorization up to $6,250 to execute the survey work on the Max Welton Trails Park property. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, I.
Aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
Okay.
All right, we shall move on to new business.
All right. being a member of the Rotary Club of Whidbey Westside, I was approached by our current president, Gwen Jones, about a request. They have 2 little libraries that were taken out on the south end. They want to replace them with new little libraries. Now, does everybody know what a little library is?
I don't.
You don't. Okay, so let me get to that. So what they would like to do is place one in the community park and one in the sports complex. And these are basically just stations that have free books off in them. Might have some literature from the organization. So Rotary Club of Whidbey Westside might put some flyers in the bottom of it. Looked at a couple locations in the park when I met with them. I'll go through all of that in a second. But it would be 2 structures, one located right in the concession stand area, probably right on the kiosk where the information kiosk is by the baseball fields. And then one up in the sports complex by the bathroom area. So let me pull up and show you some photos of what we're talking about so we're all on the same page. So So, a little library is simply something like this. It is a box unit.
Like a really little library.
A really little library. The books are provided at no cost. You can take them and keep them. You can take them and return them. You can take them and put them in another little library. There are multiples of these around the island. This is actually bigger than the ones we would be looking at for those spaces. You can see on the bottom, it's got some space for literature. They would like to do that to provide literature about their organization. They're donating this. They would like to be able to have information on the Rotary Club and joining the Rotary in that unit. They would maintain it. They would do the books in it. We would probably be looking at books targeted for youth and young adults more than anything else in the parks. As a shot of that lower area there. And that's the group that put it together that's on the Little Libraries Committee. So kind of gives you an idea of what they are. Let me get this down here and I'll look at the 2 locations we were looking at. So looking here, there we go. This might take a second, it takes a while to load. So this is where I was thinking in Community Park, just mounting it right on this post. It will add 0 work for our staff as they already edge around this area. And it is located close to the drive, the road that goes through the park. So, you know, in the wintertime when it's rainy and wet, if somebody wants to grab a book, run out and grab a book and take it up with them to, you know, sit while their kids on the playground, they can do that. You know, it's all available to them. So that's location in Community Park that we're looking at. The other location up in the sports complex. So the bathrooms are right here over this way. We were looking at putting it right here in this landscaped area. So again, it doesn't have to be weed whacked around. You know, so it is accessible, close to the parking lot again. Just nice, easy traffic area. I really don't have an issue with placing either of these. I think it might be nice to have some, and it is free. There's no charge. There's no library card needed. Take a book, leave a book. It's fine. They police it. And, you know, with me being on the Rotary Club, I could check it and make sure that, you know, nobody's putting anything inappropriate in there. But that would be the proposal, is to put 2 of those in at their cost, no cost to the district, and they will maintain them.
Krista?
Yeah, and the Rotary would be responsible for checking them and, you know, maybe putting in some fresh books or taking out some that are perhaps not appropriate or
dog-eared or beaten up. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Matt, I'll say if you would like to see an example of a little free library, there's one right in front of my house on Nelson Alley.
When he showed me that picture, it calibrated me. I know the one you're talking about, and I've borrowed a book from it. I think it's a fantastic idea. I love it.
And they are all over the country. When I go to Minnesota to visit family, when I go for walks and runs there, it's amazing the numbers that I see around the neighborhood. So it's really cool.
So this would be something that I'd like to get the board to move, second, and vote on, just to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page, everybody's good with it, and then I'll give them the go-ahead to put them together and get them in there.
If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the Rotary Club Little Libraries plan to be executed by Doug.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
All right, it has been motioned and seconded to approve the Rotary Club's Little Libraries plan, and Doug will get that executed. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Thanks, Doug. That was great.
Good, glad you liked it.
All right, let's go on to the personnel salary increase approval, please.
Okay, so this is not, this is something, this should not be news to any of the commissioners. I think I've talked to each of you individually on this one. So we had it brought to our attention that our park maintenance 2 employee, Austin Carter, had been approached and offered a position with the school district. He had interviewed at their request. They had offered him a position. Austin was offered $33 an hour to work for the school district, and benefits included for him and his family medical and dental. I talked with Austin, let him know that I could talk to the board, and with their approval could move him to the last step within his current his pay grade for his position. That's all I can really do. I can't match their offer. Their offer is higher than what he would make on that step. So that would move him to $31.44 per hour for the remainder of the year, moving to $31.91 beginning January 1st. And we currently don't offer that. Austin really wants to stay here. I've talked to him about this, and pending board approval, I think he would accept staying here if the board approves moving him to that step. I did have a conversation with Eric. Was that today, Eric, when we talked about that? And
yesterday.
He asked me some questions about what that means in terms of overall annual salary. So currently, Austin would be on step F. He would be moving to step G come January 1. So it's an increase to step J. So Austin would be moving effective October 1st is what I would recommend, to step J. Now step J is actually in 2021 lower than that, but he would move up to that on, so step J right now would be $65,396 a year. But at January 1, he would move to $66,379 per year. Now he's an hourly employee. That's just how we break it out for our salary scale. So we take that, divide it by 52 weeks, and divide it by 40 hours, and that's his hourly rate. Does that make sense to everybody? Minimize that. Okay. So going back to, so really what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of focus on the last paragraph of this. He's been an invaluable part of our staff team. I think losing him would not only result in a phase of training for our park staff and an impact on the quality of the parks and slow down on projects, would also probably have a negative budget impact, even with moving him to that step. I think it would just cost us more to get things done with a new person on staff in that role that did not know our equipment, did not know our procedures, did not know our properties. So we would probably have to do additional stuff with outside contractors that we normally would do inside. So I wholeheartedly recommend moving Austin to step J in grade 9 of the salary scale for his position, effective October 1st.
Doug, would you remind us what his tenure is with the district?
So Austin has been here, I believe, I want to say it's, he got here, he started with the parks about 10 months after I did. So I think it's been about almost 8 years, 8 full years. So losing that breadth of and that length of experience would be a very big impact to our operation.
I know that the times that I've had the opportunity to cross paths with him, he's presents himself very professionally. My observations are the work that he does around our sites is absolutely makes us shine, as we've learned over this past COVID year with all of the positive feedback that we've gotten, not only from our constituents, but also from people who have visited the island and taken advantage of the parks. We really shine, and Austin is certainly an integral part of that.
Yeah, when I first heard this, I thought it's kind of a slippery slope when you start adjusting someone's pay scale, adjusting a pay scale individually. But Austin's a different case in a number of reasons. One, that he's already shown a work ethic that, 8 years of not doing just a good job, but doing a great job. And also the dynamics of what we're in right now and trying to find qualified employees for anything. The gains, as Doug said, he's actually, not getting as good a package as he might receive from the school district, but also knows and wants to dedicate to the job that he's been working in the last 8 years. So, that dynamic's just an interesting one. And I wholeheartedly support someone who's been dedicated to the cause in a good way. If there was a poor work history or something, that'd be a different case. But here I am more than in favor of that proposed increase.
Well,
Any other discussion?
I would like to make one further comment. I will be talking to Dan Poolman at the school district and getting information on their positions and their compensation, their benefits, and what they do, because they are a direct competitor of ours. So as a part of our compensation and benefit study, for those specific positions, I mean, they don't have somebody like me. I'm not the equal of a superintendent of schools. It's just not the same job. But for potentially for Tom's job, for Austin and Jason, the park maintenance positions, they have maintenance people there that work and do those kinds of tasks. There could be some parity there that we could look at and get some dynamic information from them, because if we don't consider that, we are going to continue to do this over and over and over again. Now, the flip side of that is, if somebody's going for a higher position, and that's kind of what I told Austin is, I can give you up to the max. I can get you, and I can go to the board, and I will advocate up to the max for the position you're in. But there is a max for the position you're in. I'm not going to be able to go beyond that. And that's what I would say with any employee that came to me with, if they had a better, and then I'd certainly obviously go, hey, it's a better position, it's more money, I wish you well. Good luck in your future endeavors, because that's, we don't have a position for them to go up into. They're going to move on in another way, and that's fine.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this personnel salary increase.
I would definitely make that motion to improve the salary increase for Austin Carter.
I second that motion.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the personnel salary increase for Austin Carter. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Great, we'll move on to the 2022 budget initial draft.
Okay, so this is information for you guys at this point. We are still in draft scenario and early draft scenario. We have done some work on the budget. It's in your packet for review and kind of looking at. We will update it as we go, and as we get more information, we'll let you know. A couple of notes to keep in mind as you look through this. The 5-year projection is currently included in this. However, 2022 is the last year of our current levy, so we will be going out for a new levy for 2023. So while the 5-year projection is there, it will change with our new levy. Even if we get the same amount, if we go for the same number of cents per thousand of assessed value, we will capture at this point new construction. Property values have been increasing, so we will get a bump for that, and we will look at that when we get information that's more current. Also, we have not yet received from the county our assessed value information for next year, so we don't know what we're basing it on. So this is an estimate based on going up, from what we had last year. This does not include anything.
Just one note real quick, Doug, on that first one. The timing is such that we will be on the February ballot, upcoming February ballot with that new levy.
Okay, that's our plan. And then we do that because if it for any reason fails, we have other dates to go for as a follow-up.
Yep, two more elections, May and August, that we could go back to the voters.
Right. Well, actually, there's May, August, and November, so we could do any.
November too.
Yeah,
the general election. But
so the other thing to keep in mind is this does not include any update to our salaries and benefits based on the compensation and benefits study. We haven't got that back yet, so we don't know. No funding for any of that is included for 2022. We're actually looking at that, and we'll continue to look at that right now. I've got more meetings next week. The salary increase for Austin has not been factored in yet, as it was not approved, so that will be factored in now. Election costs, we have budgeted $5,000 here for upcoming maintenance and operations levy. We have not yet added in any money for a potential aquatic center bond issue. Certainly we can do that if the board directs and have to make some adjustments to other items to make that happen, but we can certainly do that.
Just a comment on that is the timing right now. The best estimate is the August 2022 ballot. So two ballots after the M&O levy. So that's the earliest that it could be done. So my recommendation is that we include costs for that.
Okay. So we'll look at that and see and try and factor that in. I'm just saying that it was not factored in yet at this point. Maintenance, but in the budget in the playground maintenance there was an increase. That is to add engineered wood fiber chips to the playgrounds. Pricing on that has increased and it was not done this year. In capital budget, we have moved some equipment replacement purchases out a couple years and we'll requote them. Staff, meaning Tom, is concerned about parts availability with new equipment. They've been having trouble getting them, is what he's hearing. So he wants to hold on those for a while and wait on those until everything's back up in full production and we can make sure we can get parts to repair them with when they inevitably have problems. Shifting the purchase of equipment out, we've allocated $20,000 to the outright purchase of a cedar slicer that we were going to previously purchase over time. We allocated $41,000 for asphalt improvements to the park to do some repairs of cracking asphalt. Moved $36,000 for a pickleball court to 2023 when the grant funds would become available for the full-on construction as match. And allocated $8,700 for pickleball courts in 2022 to potentially do some work late in the year if grants get approved in October or November, and we can get some grading work done in the end of next year. As in prior years, this is just an initial draft of the budget. We have not yet received our assessed valuation from the county. We'll not likely get that till late this month, early next month. Once we have that, we will update the numbers and we will continue to drill down into this a little bit more. We will send an updated draft to the board as we go through with it. There will be a budget workshop before our next board meeting for a half hour that we can bring up any questions that the group has. But if any of the commissioners would like, we can sit down one-on-one and go through the budget, and that would be probably a great idea, good exercise for all of us to kind of go through and learn as we go. Once again, this currently is an informational item at this time. No action is required on part of the board on this. This is more just to get this in your hands, get you a draft of it so you can start to look at it. Any questions?
Matt, if I understood you correctly, what you were saying about the election costs is that the $5,000 will need to have some reconsideration,
right?
Given we won't be going until the August ballot for the others. So are we thinking it's double?
That's what we're gonna have to look. Yeah, that's what we're
gonna do. There will be the cost of on the February ballot for the M&O levy, and then a separate cost on the August ballot for the bond, the Aquatic Wellness Center bond. If we ended up having to go back to the voters in August or in May or in November, if the levy failed in February, we'd have to pay again. But I think our track record tells us we don't need to budget for that. And if that comes to pass, we account for that expense, from the budget that we've already set. So I personally would plan around two of those budget expenditures, one for February and one for August, as distinct and separate things.
And the question becomes too is when we're doing this matters, because the ballots are billed based on who's on the ballot. So if we're the only thing on the ballot in February, it will actually cost more than $5,000. If there are other items that are in our area that are on the ballot, then we split the cost of the total ballot. So we have to look at the total cost, look at that, do a little research as to if anybody else is going out for anything in February, and see where we're at. 5,000 would be, I think, decent if somebody's sharing the ballot with us. It shouldn't be a huge cost. So we will have to look at, and then looking at August, that's generally a primary for the general election, which should have a lot on it. So that should be probably in the neighborhood of a few $1,000s, between 4 and 5, I would guess would be a high estimate, but that's a rough right now. So it's not an exact science, because we honestly don't know who is all going to be on the ballot. We could go to August with the bond issue, and it could be the only thing on the ballot for some strange reason, and we could then be stuck paying for the entire ballot, which could be significant, double the cost of a $5,000 ballot, or even triple. Depends on how much it costs to mail all the ballots out to everybody in the constituency, and then gather them and count them and all that kind of stuff. We pay for that. So
Thank you.
That's how it works. Any
Yeah,
other questions?
the other thing you had that one line item at the end talking about pickleball. I'd just ask if you could put into the budget shell the set of comprehensive plan programs, the Aquatic Wellness Center, the turf field, the trails, the campground, now put pickleball in there, and so that we can and then think through, and we can use the stimulus funding request thing that I made that I'll share here in a minute, but as maybe a guide to say what in that budget planning process, what do we think we should plan around for discrete expenses for those, to move those programs forward in 2022? Can we buy X for the pickleball so we're ready for the grant to come, and can we, whatever. So if you can stick that in there somehow, and then use that as the way to evaluate where and when we think we should spend to move these comprehensive plan programs along, because we're coming up on the end of the comprehensive plan period, 2023.
Right.
And, one of the things that they'll evaluate when they look at our next one is, did we achieve any of the things that we put in this one over 6 years? So being able to show back to budget, hey, yes, we talked about them, we made decisions to advance them, we, submitted grant requests, and we budgeted around them. I think that's another key element. So anyway, if you can do that, I would appreciate it.
I will look at that and see if I can get that in there. It might not be in the official budget that goes to the county, but we'll try and get it updated and added to our documents. Because you got to remember that when we go for the county budget, really all they're looking at is not even the 5-year projection. It is basically just a rough overall budget document, the total numbers and everything like that. They don't look at our line items all the way through. They don't look at our 5-year projection. They don't even want it. Sure.
Yeah, and for our planning, if we use it as our planning, for our planning purposes, and then we roll it up to a number that ends up in the one we submit, then yeah, it's fine.
So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We'll just add something down here as to updated capital projects instead of deferred capital outlay maintenance projects. We'll put, capital improvement program, and we'll start listing those items there and seeing if we can have any dollars that we think might be coming up in the near future. It is a tough thing to get those into the budget because generally they're bigger numbers when we're talking about what we're doing with them. So, but yes, we should definitely account for them in our process, and I'll add those in. Any other questions on budget? Okay, last item for me, and then I'll pass it back to Matt for the last one. So infield mix. Over the weekend, Tom got this quote. Infield mix is a strange thing. It's not just dirt in the infield. It is a specific type of soil clay mix that it's for a while we were just getting a certain kind of riverbed silt, and that was no longer available. We found a suitable replacement, but it is again a sole source vendor. So the quote is for $6,806.70 plus tax, which makes a grand total of $7,398.89. We have this appropriate amount budgeted for this purchase, and staff does recommend approval. That way we can continue to maintain our baseball field infields to the good standard we've got them at. And yeah, I'll leave that up.
I have a question.
Yes.
So is it usual for fields to have to be so specific about what they need, or is there any way to make a field more resilient or more adaptable to other mixes?
That would be a Tom question. There are ways to do it. In general, the quality does slip significantly when you do that. Generally, when you go to these things and you get these types of infield mixes, some of them have all sorts of crap mixed in with them. So you want to be very careful about what you put in. You can get seeds for weeds in there. You can get pebbles in there. You can get some small little gravel in there. I walked over on the high school's softball field, and they've got spots on their fields that have got gravel coming up through them. So it is. Are there ways that we could potentially do it? Yes, but quality would probably suffer if we did so.
Okay. I feel a little held hostage, like there's just always one provider. I remember this last year and just being like, really? Mm-hmm. How did they get away with that? Here we are again. Okay.
I would second that, Krista. I kind of felt that way too. I'm like, wait a minute. And my question was, has the price gone up? So if this is a sole provider, it's coming from Oregon, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a tote to me personally to bring it all the way from there. And there's no other game in town. Have they raised their prices due to that?
I do not believe so.
Years ago?
I do not believe so. Because
we got it from them last time?
We got it from them last time. I do not believe they've raised their prices.
But prior to,
right.
Yeah.
The last time we purchased, yes, we got it.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Lost it. Whoops. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the expenditure for the infield dirt mix. For the amount of $73.98.89.
I'll second that.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the expenditure for the infield mix quote for $7,398.89. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
And just, so I want to let you guys know, I'll sit down with Tom and we'll explore and see if there's any other options, what else we could do to get different quotes, to get ideas in here to see what we can do differently. He's more knowledgeable on this than I am, and unfortunately had some conflicts tonight and couldn't be here to answer your questions. So I won't let that just float off into the nether regions. I'll follow up on that. Matt, Island County stimulus funding requests. Did you want me to just share with you and you can put it up?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
All right, making you presenter.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off my camera, not because I don't want anybody to see me, but because with him coming in, the bandwidth is going to be a problem. So.
Okay, so you guys are seeing this. So this arose out of a meeting that was held by the foundation. Rich Baccigalupi, if you know him, and Danielle Bishop, who are the legislative engagement team for the foundation. They're the ones who have set up meetings so far with Senator Mazzal and Representative Gilday and Representative Paul. They're the ones who organized their visits to the site, working with Doug, and have organized meetings with the county, among other people, the county commissioners. And in a meeting with Jill Johnson, Commissioner Johnson, the idea of, and they were asking about, potential funding from county commissioners in some way for the aquatic center. She directed them to, she came up with the idea while they were there of applying for the federal stimulus money that the county had been, or at least at that time, they'd been made aware that they were going to receive roughly $17 million in federal stimulus money. And she said that this would be a great way to get financial support for that project and other projects, because one of the goals of us expending the stimulus money is to get people back outside and into the community, was her quote unquote. So she said, and she thought it would be most appropriate if not the foundation on their own, but the Parks District was the applicant, and that the Parks District showed and applied for money in a variety of programs that, if you wove them all together, all had the effect of getting people back out into the community, active in the community, engaged with other people, that sort of thing. So that was the mission. And so what I did was took the range of programs that we're engaged in and looked at ways that this money could be used to take another step, or finish the program or finish the facility to open it up to more users, to bring people out and into the park, to achieve the objective that she had given to Rich and Danielle. So that's what this is. And so what she asked is that this be brought back to the commission by the Park District. And so that's why I have at the top of it Doug and Jen as the representatives, and that this would be then, if you guys approve moving forward with it, taken in by Doug and Jen together to Melanie Bacon as our commissioner for our district, for the area of the district, and have her then bring it to the board. And then we do it, it's now, because we need to do it as quickly as possible. They've been considering what to do with this money for a while and have had different ideas. And so this is an attempt to get a portion of that money. And you can see the total is 2.9 million across these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 programs. So we're asking for a fraction of that money. It's to be spent in Island County, where we have the advantage, and what is in the body of the summary here is we are uniquely suited to actually spending it on something that will actually bring people out and into the community, versus something that maybe is less directly connected to that and is more, requires 3 or 4 other different things to happen. So anyway, the feedback that they got from Commissioner Johnson was that we would be a strong applicant if we were applied. So you can see this, and I got feedback so far from a number of commissioners and from Doug, and that's all been rolled into this. And this table summarizes that we're talking about the athletic field, pickleball, campground, pool, the amphitheater, our water system, and trails. And you can see the totals for each. And then each one has a page. So in this case, the multipurpose field, we're asking for 1.65 million. And that includes 250,000 to prep the site, $1 million for the field, and $400,000 for lighting. We say we could start as soon as you give us the money, and it would take us a year. And then some specific justification about that program, and talks about, in this case, we have to close fields, grass goes dormant, the days get shorter, et cetera. And then a couple of, if there are pictures or charts or something to give enough information that they know what we're talking about. So here's where it would go. Here's kids playing on turf, whatever. Same thing for pickleball, showing pictures of us playing on a parking lot. And then this is a picture of the courts project that they just built in Sequim for 8 courts. The amphitheater showed a couple of graphics of the amphitheater that Doug has from the work that's been done so far. Campground, talked about using this money to convert the bath and shower building and build the dedicated building within the footprint of the campground, and build the septic. So that adds up to 300,000. Showed a couple of pictures. There's the aquatic center. Talk about extending the water system over to the site and doing a couple $100,000 in initial design and engineering work. Threw in the picture of Senator Mazzal and Representative Gilday visiting the site. This is the water system thing where the Small Water System Management Plan says we need, a system to treat manganese and hard water for the park as in general, so that the water comes out of the water fountains clear instead of brown. And then the trails talked about, funding the build out of the new Max Walton trails property. So the request is that, with any questions we can talk about now, is going to be to approve us taking this application, Doug and Jen or Jen or both, taking this application to Melanie Bacon as soon as we can schedule a meeting with her to get at least the ask in front of the board as they consider what to do with this stimulus money.
Do you know if there's a deadline for the commissioners to make decisions and or have the money paid out?
No, I don't. My guess is it's sometime either to make the decisions by the end of the year, calendar year, something around that. But I do not know specifically. I know that they've considered it over the course of several meetings so far and talked about a couple different approaches. And during that sequence is when they said, hey, go put an application together and have the district submit it. So, yeah, I think we're right in the zone. I think the sooner the better, though.
So for clarification, do we take this specifically to Melanie, or do we take it to a commissioners meeting for presentation?
Yeah, I think my personal feeling is, in order to get on the agenda, it's easiest and maybe the only way possible to go through your commissioner.
Okay.
Other than just going there and doing public comment. So the request would be to get her to sponsor this funding request for her portion of the county. And then if she agrees to that, then she gets it on the agenda for us, and then probably asks us to be there when they consider it to answer questions or whatever.
when I first looked at this, kudos to you because I think it looks it's really concise and a good selling point the way it's set up. I think it's well done.
I appreciate it. That was feedback that we got from her, from Commissioner Johnson, was to keep these things to a simple page per project. And then Danielle Bishop from the foundation is the one who used another grant application template that the foundation had applied for to provide the structure for this. And then she did a lot of the wordsmithing. So, you know, thanks to her for her, you know, providing the structure for this and for the creative input. She was instrumental in making this come out the way it did. So
I think it's fabulous, and I think it's exactly what they're looking for. And I think especially seeing how COVID is hanging on, and that all of us don't necessarily have the optimism that we had at the beginning of the summer, and that going outdoors is going to continue to be people's salvation for the near term, and also how people are going to be able to gather again. And starting in the parks, I just don't see how they can say no to this very effective argument. So thank you.
no, you're welcome. I think that's, if we emphasize that in the conversation with Commissioner Bacon, and then if we're lucky to get into a conversation with the full board, I think we'll get support because it was Commissioner Johnson's idea. So if we can get Commissioner Bacon on board, we got 2 out of 3. And, you know, it's, if they, for example, put us on an agenda 3 weeks from now, I would suggest that we have a meeting with Commissioner St. Clair to present it to her as well. An advanced presentation, try to get 30 minutes on her schedule so she knows it's coming. I think you're right. I believe that would be an effective use of the money. I think that's our strongest selling point. Like, we would have payoff. Like, we could show you spent it. Yeah, you spent it and there were results. Right?
Yeah. I don't know how many of you have had either reason or access or connection to any of the funds that have flowed from either the federal government or the state government or even from Island County over the last year and a half during the pandemic that's been out there to help various organizations. But as a small business owner who has submitted a great deal of grant and favorable loan applications and things like that, if you make a really good argument, they give you the money.
Yeah.
Or at least it's worked for me.
That's good. That's good. Jen, are you comfortable taking this forward to Commissioner Bacon with Doug, or do you want support with that? Do you want,
So
how would you feel comfortable doing this?
Given that this is kind of my first rodeo for this sort of thing, I would look to Doug for some direction on what he thinks the best course of action is.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say is a couple of things. Number one, I think Matt illustrated the right direction to go is to go through Melanie Bacon, who's our representative. Then once we have Melanie Bacon on board, I know, Matt, you said you've talked to Commissioner Johnson already. Maybe set up a meeting with both Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner St. Clair to kind of sit formally and go through, hey, here's what we're proposing, you know, kind of give them a heads up and then try and get it on the agenda. I would say that the first thing that we need to do is, you know, move second and vote that, yes, we want to do this and put this ahead, and then put it in my court to take that with Jennifer and potentially Matt as representatives of the board. You know, I think that would be a good starting point. But if we have two commissioners that are available, then if I set a meeting and one of you can't be there, the other one potentially can, and that helps. It gives board representation to that and board support of that to their board, which is nice. That would be my those would be my thoughts. Is get it approved, get it moved, seconded, and approved, and then let's get it rolling.
All right, thank you for that guidance, Doug.
Okay.
All right, so
Yeah, if everybody's good with it, I'll make a motion to approve it. Okay, so I make a motion to proceed with the Island County stimulus funding request with the file, using the file that Doug and the commissioners received in the meeting preps.
I second the motion.
all right, it has been moved and seconded to proceed with the proposal for the Island County stimulus funding using the document from the meeting preparation packet. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes.
Okay, Doug, you can take control of that.
Wait, let's do it this way. Okay, and I believe that ends everything I have on my agenda. I would happily address any questions anybody has or any other thoughts from commissioners.
A quick question regarding maybe sitting down and going through the budget items. Like, when would be when would be a good time? Like before the next meeting or right after the next meeting? Or
I would suggest if you want to sit down, we would do that closer to like early October, because we should have a better you know, idea of where we're actually going to be presenting the budget to. And then sit down like before the next meeting. The budget workshop really isn't much of a workshop. It's for me to answer any questions that it's really like about, hey, do you have some question about the budget, or is there something that's not right that we haven't addressed? I'm hoping that we usually try and get all the questions answered ahead of time and get those out to everybody before we get to that point, for efficiency, because everybody's going to look at this differently and see different things. But yeah, I'm happy to sit down. I think we should wait till at least early October before doing that, because we still have, like I said, we won't even get our actual assessed valuation until late this month.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would say, and maybe this works for everybody, if Carrie and Doug roll in the numbers from the feedback from this meeting and assessed valuation and all those other things, and update that document, then I can review it with Doug and Carrie, or with Carrie, and we can get to a point that we think reflects the feedback from the board and what was discussed tonight, and then share it out to individual commissioners for their own review in that same kind of early October timeframe. So we'll have done the scrub. We'll hopefully caught most, if not everything, from this discussion. And Doug, based on what Doug and Carrie and the staff have rolled into it, and then at least we've gone through that cycle now. One-time meeting plus follow-up plus additional information gathered. That sounds okay. Then we'll just do that. Doug and Carrie just wrote me into that as we move forward.
Yeah, I think, Matt, once we get a final draft ready, I was planning on running it by you anyways, so you kind of just detailed out what my plan was anyways, so works for me. I didn't cover this in the budget, but here's our actual timeline. So we do every year, for anyone who hasn't done this with us, I think everybody has at this point, we do present a draft budget in September. We then have a budget workshop where we review and answer questions and try and tweak it to its final version So our board meeting on the 20th of October will be a budget workshop for half an hour to have any final questions done. At that point, in my mind, our budget, barring something huge coming up, would be set. Because at our November meeting on the 17th, we need to approve our budget document to send to the county. And that is a sub document out of these internal planning documents that we're working on right now. Okay. So we have the budget hearing in November prior to our budget, our November regular meeting. The budget hearing is not for commissioners to comment on our budget. It's for the public. If anybody wanted to come in and comment, that's when they would be able to do it and the board would listen. So our budget hearing is generally just, we open up the budget hearing. If anybody's there that wants to comment, they can comment. We close the budget hearing and then we go into our regular meeting. Okay, so that's kind of our process. But yes, Matt, you detailed totally what I was planning on doing anyways, was get the draft finalized, sit down with the treasurer, Matt, who's got the experience with this, go through it line by line, see what else we need to do, if there's anything we're missing, and then bring it out to the board and set individual meetings at that point. Anything
All right,
else?
any questions or comments? All right, then I will move us to adjournment at 7:27.